All right, well, welcome everyone. And I'm actually going to ask my co-panelists to come on up behind me. And thank you everyone for joining us for our final panel of the day on what your board wants you to know about customer success. And if we have one goal for this session, it's for each of you to walk out knowing three key things. So one, demystifying what really goes on in these board meetings and in these discussions around customer success. Two, what are the perspectives from both the VCs and the CEOs? And then three, to have each of you walked out here amped up and ready to be board ready. So with that, I'm really thrilled to introduce my co-panelists today. We have both two terrific VCs and two very impressive CEOs. So on the VC side, a partner at Bessemer Ventures with one shoulder that is 1.5 inches shorter than the other one for you to guess, Christina Shen.
I'm sure everyone will be staring at shoulders now, but that's okay.
A partner at Lightspeed Ventures and a flea market aficionado, Knuckle Mandan. And then on the CEO front, CEO of HelpShift and the owner of a three-legged dog named Hops, Linda Crawford. And last but not least, the CEO and co-founder of Allocadia, who has an identical twin co-founder, Christine Stewart. Big round of applause, guys. So what we thought we'd do today is to switch up the usual panel that you might get and bring to you a discussion in the style of a game show called the Newlywed Game. This is really old school. But what that means is I'm going to flash some questions up on screen, and we're going to ask the VCs to reveal their thoughts. And then we'll get the real life scoop from the CEOs, and then vice versa. And what's really awesome, given this technology conference, is that we also have Slido. So for all of you in the audience, we would love to hear from you and to get your perspectives and thoughts as well. Sound good? Okay, let's go. So our very first question I will direct to our CEOs, Christine and Linda. At what stage should a company hire an owner of customer success? So I'm going to give everyone on your phones on Slido a few seconds. It should be multiple choice. And let's see the reveal from both of you.
And this is what we think the VCs are going to say, right?
So what do you say, Christine?
When the founder needs to scale. So I think with investors, they're always thinking about, okay, the founder should do some stuff out of the gates, know how to sell, implement, but they need to scale really quickly, and so they need to replace themselves.
Okay, so time to scale. And then Linda.
I said from the first dollar, thinking from owner, taking that quite literally to say somebody in the company, even from the first dollar of revenue, should own it, whether it be the CEO or someone else. But then I agree that as we scale, then you need to hire an appropriate person that can run the function.
Yeah, and I know this has been a theme for the past few days. Christina, what have you seen based on your experience with your portfolio companies?
Gosh, it's been such a wide range. I completely agree with my panelists, which is, in terms of mind share of like who should be focused on customer success, from the very first dollar sold or deployed product, somebody in the company needs to be focused on customer success. It could be the CEO, it could be the head of sales, but somebody needs to be focused on it. But when should you hire a dedicated person? I think for most of my companies, I see it right when they start getting to around, call it the 10 to 15 employee mark. And that's because you're starting to ramp sales, you're starting to ramp customer success, and you're starting to need someone to focus on those renewals. And you need someone focused on renewals way before you hit the 1-year mark for your first customer. So I agree with both of our panelists.
Awesome. And it's funny watching the Slido up here. I see the answers changing as you're answering. Awesome. All right, so question number 2 then. Where should the CS leader report? And so this is actually for our VCs, Knuckle and Christina. And I'll give everyone, again, in the audience a few seconds to put in your answers. Oh, okay. Actually, this is a word cloud. Did you even
Oh, this is
All right.
cool.
So can we have the reveal here, please, from the VCs?
Dun, 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 dun.
All right. So Christina.
So I said be in the C-suite. So I think it's very much in agreement with many of the word cloud, which is whether it's directly with the CEO or within the C-suite, somebody needs to own it, but have a real seat at the table for all management decisions.
Malcolm?
I said the CEO. My simple logic is that, especially in the early days, the customer success team needs to have a clear line towards all of this C-suite, kind of like Christina, and often that means that they should report directly into the CEO.
Awesome. Well, Linda, I know you'd spent time previously at Optimizely and Salesforce as well, so I'd love to get your perspective on this.
I think it's a head scratcher for me that it's not a direct report to the CEO, given that not too far into a company's journey, the line between net new revenue and what you're up for renewal crosses over. And with that much at stake, it just seems to me that the person running such an important function in the company should be direct to the CEO.
Cool. Terrific. Shall we move on to the next question?
Sure.
Cool. This one actually is still back to our VCs. And again, a theme that we've heard throughout this conference. Should CS own upsell opportunities when reporting to the CEO? And I know, again, depending on what company you're at, there are many nuances and flavors around this. So we've got the Slido up. This is a yes, no, it depends. I love watching this. All right. Should we do this reveal? Yes, no, it depends. Knuckle?
I'm more curious about her answer.
You're going to go first again?
Oh, I like these.
It
Okay,
really
yeah.
depends.
Let's have you dive deeper. So what did you have a simple or you have a complex? Knuckle?
Yeah, so my point here is it depends. And the reason is if it's simple sales, meaning the product sells itself kind of, the sales team is really an inside sales team, short sales cycle, and the upsell really depends on customers being happy with the core product, then I think they should own upsell. But if it's complex sales where it's a long sales cycle, I think even cross-sell and upsell should live in the sales world.
Yeah, so I had a similar answer. I think particularly when there is upsell that's complicated, where you might be upselling a second product, I think having sales tied in many times is important, and that transition is very important as well. I think if the upsell is more due to growth of seats or due to some transactional nature, like when I think about API companies like a Twilio or SendGrid, then very much I think CS tends to own upsell. So I say it depends, but I think it really depends on the customer profile and who they built the relationship with.
Those specific examples are really helpful. Linda, Christine, anything you want to add from your point of view?
Yeah, at Allocadia, we're enterprise software for the CMO, and our VP of Customer Success, Jocelyn's in the room here somewhere, she owns all of our renewals and all of our expand, and that represents a huge portion of our new business on a quarterly basis. And for us, it works. And I think that's truly the future of customer success is a big revenue leadership role. So she's got all the account managers under there, and it works when you're talking about value realization to your prospects. It works to your customers. It works really, really well for us.
And a side answer to this question too is, a lot of times sales and customer success both will share the account, and that's also shown through in the economics as well. I've seen many businesses now where the CSM rep will get credit in economics for recognizing there's an upsell opportunity in the renewal, but still hand it back to sales. And so it really depends on how the org is set up and also how the leadership is set up as well. But I actually really think both models work.
Yeah, and I would say that for us, I joined as CEO 8 months ago, and we had our CSMs doing our renewals and upsells, and I switched it. And the way I look at a renewal in our business, because we were selling to enterprises, is it's a lead for the reps. And I switched it to just due to skill set. Our CSMs really want to onboard and care for the customer. they were not sort of trained as account managers. So I think if you're really clear about account management, then I think it's great. People own the revenue side of things. But for us, I did as you said, and 80% ACV, 20% renewal rate for AEs, and then sort of a team renewal rate goal for CSMs and a team growth goal for the CSMs. So I agree, it depends.
Lots of different flavors.
And it'll change, I think, over time.
Yeah, and I think that's another part of it, depending on the stage you're at, what sector you're with. All of that might change depending on the company. All right, onwards. What is the top thing you want to hear from the CS leader during a board meeting? Again, I think as many of you are aspiring to be in board meetings and to be that strategic leader, I'd love to hear from our CEOs as you, of course, are bringing your heads and leaders into these board meetings. What's the one thing you really lean on them for?
Know thy numbers.
All right.
Those are the basics.
All right, so Christina's know the numbers. Linda?
Renewal rate percentage and top 10 growth deals.
Okay, cool. So can you give maybe a few examples of that or dive deeper?
Yeah, from my perspective, it's, one of the baselines, of course, at a board meeting, and we've brought in our VP of Customer Success a few times, and we do breakouts and deep dives, and we'll do that with different parts of the business. But yeah, step number one, know the numbers. I always joke if it's, if the numbers aren't good, harder board meetings, lots more work. If they're great, easier board meetings. But yeah, coming in with why the numbers are where they are, how we can improve them, what's the plan, and just getting a real clarity and understanding of the business is what a CS leader should do coming into the board meeting.
Yeah, so for us, our leadership team attends most of our board meeting, and when I present the data, but I expect kind of the backup from my leadership team, and I expect that as we dive into how we're tracking on renewal rate, which is, we can only renew up to 100% of what's up for renewal. Where are we going to land, and what are the tactics that we're using to get there, and then what is also really important is, net retention, net expansion, and, kind of thinking about what are our top deals around growth, and sort of trying to balance out like what the sales leaders are talking about, which is a lot of times all the sexy new logos that we're going after.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Knuckle and Christina, I know you guys both sit on boards. What have you seen really standout CS leaders bring to the board meeting?
I think it's a tricky question only because I think business can't be boiled down to one small thing. If that was the case, life would be much easier for everyone in this room. But the top thing that I prefer to hear is what's the overall customer health score across the customer base. And how I think about it is who are in the red, who are happy, whether you measure it with NPS scores or higher customer support tickets or renewal rate, whichever measures you have. But what's the overall customer base looking like in terms of customer health score, both past and in this quarter?
Cool.
So that's how I think about it.
Yeah, I double down on there. I think we were all talking about the metrics, and I think the audience agrees as well. We have all these phenomenal metrics, right, to measure the health of customer success. And, a Gainsight dashboard is pretty helpful as well, because I love seeing those screenshots directly in board decks. But I think exactly to Knuckles' point, what really matters also is not just the number, but what does the funnel look like to today? So I love to see, who's up for renewal, and who actually renewed, reasons why people didn't renew. And then when I look the next quarter or for the next board meeting, who's in the red, who's in the yellow, who's in the green, and what are those early signals that help you understand what might be a customer at risk. And sometimes they're not, accepting calls, sometimes it's an engagement number, but depending on your business, it can be dramatically different.
And to be honest too, right? Even on the ones that might not be looking so healthy, coming to the meeting and being transparent about it.
Because if you don't identify it in advance that this customer might not renew, then you will have zero chance in changing that, right? Even otherwise, you might have a low chance, but at least identify it early and then try to change that outcome.
Awesome. Okay, we are flying through here, guys. Next question. This is back to our VCs. How do you define and quantify the value delivered to customers? And I'm guessing your portfolio company's customers. And then how do you convince your board? So let's see the word cloud here pop up in a second. And until then, let's have you guys flip these cards.
All right. What did you say?
We're so curious to see each other's responses.
Well, so I'll start. I mean, for me, we've been talking a lot about the numbers, but like, I do think like it's the easiest way to quantify success, probably not in the first day, but over time, it tracks over time. And so, we're really focused not only on the retention, but NPS. I think, if you look at old school software days, if you were positive, you were doing awesome. I think today we're looking at NPS scores that, are 20 to 30 for kind of the average SaaS company, and our best companies are kind of in the 60, 70 range. And so it's something that we really focus on because we think happy customers always come back and want to buy more.
Yeah, it's a similar point, but my point of view here is that it's difficult to quantify customer success the way you can quantify sales and marketing. So it comes down, in my mind, to the board kind of agreeing that a higher churn rate will impact revenues and also will impact overall valuation of the company. And so embodying that in some way that, look, this is accepted and customer success has to drive value this way.
Awesome. Great. All right, I'm going to actually move ahead to this question for our CEOs, which is what you're looking for when bringing a new CS leader into the boardroom. Again, lots of great CS leaders here with us today in the audience. What do you guys think about this, Linda and Christine?
Go ahead. I can't even remember where. All right.
So I put the ability of that person to really represent the voice of the customer. Super strategic. It plays to where do we want to take the product strategically, potential issues that may be causing churn. So, I want like sort of strong conviction from that leader on that front.
Yeah, I'll take a bit more of the mental, emotional side with the board and investors. And I think ultimately, any leader coming into the boardroom, you want to give them confidence. You want to give them, clarity, and you want them to feel like you've got your two hands on the wheel. You know how to scale that organization. Of course, in our world in tech, we're always thinking about growth. And so, okay, what are those fundamentals to kind of get us to that next level? But you can have some excitement too. You come in and get people excited about the things that you're doing. And Jocelyn, my VP of Customer Success, told a story where they had the health check. She'd showed it to me, and it was all these different metrics we were going to measure, and they hadn't even started it yet, but apparently it got into the board deck right away. And I wanted to share this with the board, and those things matter. You do want to share that, and it certainly got them on a journey with Victoria, our team member, and implementing that. So I think excitement, confidence, clarity.
Well, that brings us to our great last lightning round of the Newlywed Game, which is, and I'll reframe this. What's the number one tactical thing you would leave with all of our audience today as they prepare to join these boardrooms? Number one tactical down the line. Christina, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. I would say the most tactical thing as you walk into the boardroom is be prepared, because I think you can have all these fantastic numbers, gorgeous slides, but be prepared for the context, right? Like, we love the numbers on the slides, but we love to understand the story behind everything. And so knowing the stories behind why someone may have churned or telling the exciting story of why someone upsold is something that we love to hear.
Cool.
For me, it's more about being operationally detailed. You want to walk into the room and leave the impression that things are under control. If a customer is about to churn, you have the predictability around it. You have the predictability around how many CSMs you need to hire next quarter. So ultimately, it scales into an operation. And as the company scales more, it definitely needs the operational detail to lead that organization.
I would say know the numbers inside and out, practice your pitch, and be succinct. You're not there to tell your entire life story and go on and on and on. Like, keep it short and sweet and to the point and feel confident.
Yeah, I mean, these things are all true. I'll do a little bit different and just try and build a relationship and a connection with the people in the room. Like, yes, you have to know your numbers, but just, yeah, know what they want to hear and what they're thinking about and kind of, you know, try and connect with them. It's great that you bring in the whole leadership team to the board meetings. I think that's really important to do that with the board.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much to our fantastic panelists today and to all of you for playing along. Excited for our final session. Thanks, guys.